The QYLD ETF has been making a slow and steady recovery since around October of 2022, where the ETF saw lows of around $15 per share. But since then, the popular covered call ETF has made quite the comeback, climbing all the way to almost $18 per share once again, and seeming to have no reasons to slow down anytime soon. In today's video, we are going to do a deep dive into the QYLD ETF and explore if this covered call ETF is worth all the hype it's been receiving over the last few years, and see if the ETF is worth holding, buying, or selling as of now. Now we're going to go through all this and more. Right after you, please drop a like in this video and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Now, like I said earlier, QYLD has had quite a performance year to date, up around 11.66% year to date as far as ETF price, and keep in mind that's without dividends included. Now, the 52-week range for QYLD is actually pretty crazy at a $15 low and an $18.53 high over the past 52 weeks. Now, before we go any further into this ETF, let's head over to the global website and check out some of the basics. Now, on the global website, it says QYLD, reasons to consider it. It says high income potential. QYLD seeks to generate income through covered call writing, which historically produces higher yields in periods of volatility. Also, monthly distributions. QYLD has made distributions the last 9 years running. Pretty impressive. And then efficient options execution. QYLD writes covered call options on the NASDAQ 100 index, saving investors the time and potential expense of doing so individually. Some more key information on the fund. If you didn't know, the fund does have an expense ratio of 0.6%, which is sort of industry standard with this type of covered call ETF. The net assets are $8.07 billion, which makes this one of the biggest ETFs across the entire market. Now, as far as distributions, which is something we're going to go through a little bit deeper later, but the 12-month trailing dividend yield is 12.15%, and the distribution yield is 11.75%. Now, another very important aspect of this ETF is, of course, the holdings. What are the current positions in the QYLD ETF? So as far as QYLD's holdings, there's quite a few of them if you look through and scroll down, but as at the top, the biggest holdings, companies like Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Tesla, Meta, Alphabet, Broadcom, Pepsi, Costco, Adobe, and so on and so forth. But a very important holding of the fund is, of course, the call option, the short NASDAQ call option, the covered call, which of course the fund deploys on an ongoing basis in order to basically short all the holdings that the underlying fund already holds. Now, with this covered call strategy, there's some good and some bad within it. And this, of course, depends on how the market is trading on a monthly basis. With the covered call strategy, by utilizing this short NASDAQ call option, the fund is actually mitigating downside risk by once again shorting all the holdings within the ETF. Also, by selling these call options on a monthly basis, this fund is going to receive massive amounts of premium, which of course are passed through to the shareholders of the ETF. But some of the bad things about this covered call strategy is, of course, that it does put an upside cap on how much the fund is going to be able to move. If the NASDAQ, for whatever reason within this time frame, is to move above the strike price, the shares would get called away, and any profit above the strike price would be lost profit, lost potential to the QYLD shareholders. Now, looking a little bit deeper into the global NASDAQ 100 covered call ETF and a few more things that I'm concerned about. And keep in mind, guys, I personally am a QYLD shareholder. I think I own around 1,500 or so shares throughout my multiple portfolios. So I am an actual shareholder, and these are things that I'm particularly concerned about. So it's pretty obvious that if you look at QYLD on the max time frame on the max chart, the ETF price is down significantly, around 30% in the red. And from about 2016 all the way until around 2018, when the market was trading pretty nicely, QYLD traded pretty well along with it. And although, again, because of the covered call strategy, some of the upside is going to be capped, overall the ETF was trading pretty good. But ever since around 2019, then of course 2020, the ETF has struggled and has been far, far below the recent highs of the fund years and years back. Now, this is obviously concerning to me because I bought my first shares of QYLD way back here, probably in 2018, 2019, when QYLD was well north of $20 per share. And although throughout 2020, I was able to average down, and as of right now, I think my cost basis on QYLD is somewhere around $18 or $19 per share, so I might be down a little bit in share price without dividends included, of course. It still makes you wonder if this ETF is going to continue to decay long term into the future. And what's sort of interesting about the decay of the ETF price is it's not only QYLD. Global has other ETFs as well, like RYLD, which on the max time frame, even though this ETF is far newer than QYLD, it's done pretty much the same thing. It's traded pretty much sideways and only decayed since the inception of the ETF. So this being said, this is one of the main reasons on why I personally have not added more QYLD to my portfolio over the last year or so now. It's because of the overall ETF price decay. And I get it, we're going to look at the total return here in a second, which is including the dividends, which makes the ETF price decay look much less bad. But even still, there's other covered call funds out there, like JEPI for example, that also offers a massive monthly dividend, but doesn't decay nearly as much in ETF price. Now, the other thing that definitely concerns me about being a long-term QYLD shareholder and something that I want all newer investors that are interested into buying into this ETF to understand very clearly is the fact that the dividend history for QYLD shows what also might be a sort of grim future ahead. Now, if you look at the dividend payouts for QYLD way back in 2014, around the time the fund first became a thing, the payouts were around the 20 cent or even 24 cent per share per month, which was quite a significant payout, probably somewhere around 10 to 15% yield on a yearly basis, which was definitely significant even with the possibility of some ETF price decay. But if you look at the performance as far as the dividend payouts over the last year or so, QYLD's dividends have also been sort of alarmingly low, with some months paying as low as 17 or 16 cents per share per month. And although as of recently, the last payout has bumped up a little bit, nearly offering 18 cents per share for QYLD, the monthly dividend distributions are something that I have my eyes on and something that definitely worries me for the future total profitability of the fund. Now, something that's also very important, like I talked about earlier, is to understand the total return when it comes to QYLD, which of course means the price of the ETF over time and the dividend included. So what's crazy is that if you just look at the price return of QYLD over the past 5 years, for example, the fund is down 28.08%. And this is during a time where a lot of different stocks or ETFs, pretty much anything out there that's halfway decent, has had a nice return over the past 5 years, even through all the volatility and all the ups and downs. But of course, if you use total return as a metric and include the dividend, which is a pretty good dividend, I have to admit, QYLD has returned 27.94% over the past 5 years, or just right around 5 to 6% over the past 5 years. So my point being that even if you were to include the massive juicy dividend on a monthly basis and look at QYLD's performance on a 5-year time frame, even with that, this covered call ETF has still underperformed the S&P 500 significantly. So where do we go from here? Is the QYLD ETF worth holding on to, buying or selling as of right now? For me personally, I'm going to still hold on to the shares that I have and am very interested to see how it trades over the next 6 to 12 months. But I want to hear from you down below. Is QYLD as of right now for you personally a buy, hold, or sell? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like in the video and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.